again, thank you for stopping by. And don't forget about tonight's sponsor, everyone, Underdog Fantasy. The promo code is HIDE. The link is in the description down below. I'll talk about Underdog in just a little bit. And here we go. Let's start off with the Brewers here. We have been all expecting the Brewers to be making some moves. Corbin Burnes has been on the block now for what feels like 18 years. And it just seems like the time is coming for the Brewers to go into some kind of a transition. I've mentioned this the past couple of nights. We have always seen the Brewers try to compete every single year. We don't ever really see them rip things down, tear things apart, and start over. We don't ever see the Brewers do that. We always see them try to put their best foot forward. Even if it ends up being a losing season, they try their best to put a competitive team on the field. But it does feel like this coming off season, it feels like they might need to make a couple of moves because, you got Corbin Burnes coming up on free agency, one of the better starting pitchers in the league. With what these guys are getting paid, there's no way the Brewers are going to pay him. So it's just inevitable that he gets traded. And right now, his value could be at its highest from this point until free agency. Sure, trade deadline. But the more time that goes by, the less you have Corbin Burnes for your season. And most likely, the more his value is going to decrease. Now, I know the trade deadline, market heats up, teams tend to overspend, all right, especially for someone like Corbin Burnes. Teams could definitely maybe throw in another prospect. We saw that with Luis Castillo and Edwin Arroyo. So with Corbin Burnes, that's definitely likely, but that's always a risk as well because you never know what could happen, right? Guy goes down with an injury or something, ends up missing time. Who knows, right? So it could be worthwhile for the Brewers to look into a trade right now. So the reports are suggesting that, according to Ken Rosenthal, Milwaukee is open to moving virtually any player on its roster. Anyone. And that could even mean even a player like Christian Yelich, maybe Willy Adames, right? Maybe some of these other guys it's not just about Corbin Burnes at the end of the day. There are other players on the Brewers. Now, Willy Adames he's a guy to keep an eye out for. He's a guy, hey, plays a little shortstop. And of course, his Fangraphs not going to work for me again. But yeah, Willy Adames, last year was not an amazing season for him, hitting .217, a .310 on base, .407 slugging, had the 24 homers. So that's not bad. Gives you a little pop. And with Willy Adames, another thing to think about with him is the fielding, right? The offense was pretty abysmal last year. It was pretty solid back in 2022, had the 31 homers, 98 RBIs. 458 slugging, not bad there at all, but it definitely took a hit this year. The slugging went down, the batting average went down, the homers went down as well, and he played more games. At least you see some great defense from Willy Adames. So the one thing with him is you are going to have him, for this coming year, and then he's going to be a free agent. So this is a guy that can handle the shortstop position. So we'll have to see if the Brewers will look into moving him. I mean, they definitely have a lot of infielders coming up, right? Bryce Terang, he could just slide back and play some shortstop as well. So that is, something to think about. If you take a look at some other players as well, right? Christian Yelich, could you end up moving him? The problem with Christian Yelich, right? If we're looking at him, the problem is it's going to be hard to move him because he has a negative value at the moment, right? Christian Yelich did have a pretty solid season this past year. If we look at the numbers for him, looking at the quick numbers, 278 average, 370 on base, the 447 slugging, 19 homers, 28 stolen bases. So not a bad year for Christian Yelich, but if you're looking at the contract, that is what is going to bring his value down, right? Because if you really look at what he's done over the last couple of years, he is an under-the-water contract at the moment. He's making a lot of money per year, right around $24 million per year. He's got a mutual option in 2029, so he's on a big contract. So, he did put up the 4.1 Fangraph WAR this year, but he's projected, to be under 3 for next year. I think he could definitely beat that. He looked really solid this past year. But in the end, Christian Yelich, when you look at the numbers over the last few years, 2021, 22, right? He put up a combined 3.7 Fangraph WAR over the 2 seasons, right? And he, again, had a good year this year. But the problem is, it's just when you look at the overall value of what he's put onto the field, right, over the last few years, it's not, sure, he had the good year this past year, but moving forward, who knows what you're going to get out of Christian Yelich is basically what I'm trying to say, right? Now, this past year, his value, performance-wise, did beat what he did make in terms of money, right? $33 million is what he was worth this year on the field, but 2022, he was only worth $18 million. 2021, a little over $12 million. So who knows what he ends up being this year? And that's why when you look at his value on baseball trade values, it is negative 35. So the Brewers, if they want to get something back for Christian Yelich, most likely they're going to have to pay off some of this contract, right? They're going to have to send a little bit each year to a team that he ends up going to if they do end up moving him. I don't expect the Brewers to move Christian Yelich because you got to remember at the end of the day too, right? The Brewers, any team out there, right? You got to have some players that you can market as well, right? Christian Yelich, this is a guy probably, I don't know what the statistics are when it comes to the Brewers jersey sales. I would imagine Yelich is up there, right? You got his face all over the place. He's probably got all these different types of, I don't know, cups and whatever, spoons and whatever in the gift shop. So Christian Yelich is a guy that is big for that organization, right? In terms of marketing as well. So Christian Yelich, it might just be worth it to just hang on to him, to be completely honest. I don't expect him to move. But I can see Corbin Burnes. I can see Adames. If we're looking at Adames's value, all right, he's got a pretty healthy value right here, a little under $13 million on the median value. Could go up to maybe in the $15 million range. So Willy Adames, I could see him getting moved, right? Have to see. Now, when it comes to Devin Williams, right? Conman752, you had that comment, the super chat earlier. Thank you again for that. Could you end up moving Devin Williams, right? If we look at Devin Williams here, this guy's been awesome. Love me some Devin Williams. Guy's changeup is absolutely nasty, right? But he's under control for a couple more years. So could the Brewers maybe look into moving him, right? They moved Hader, right? So who knows? Could this be someone that you could potentially move to another team? And Conman752, you mentioned the Orioles, right? Could you end up just trading Corbin Burnes and Devin Williams in a package, right, to the Baltimore Orioles? And we'll talk about the Orioles in just a little bit, right? So I'll keep this page open for later. But if you're looking at the two values between these two, it would cost a lot when you put them together, right? You're looking at, some close to around $60 million, right? But in the offseason, I could see something like this happening. Now, I could also see maybe the Brewers would want, if they were to trade Devin Williams, if they were looking into that, maybe separate the two to try and maximize the value of both of these players. So, a package would be really interesting. But with the Orioles, they got a lot of prospects they can deal, right? I mean, this farm system is completely stacked. I mean, shoot, you can just throw in maybe Kobe Mayo, right? I don't know about Colton Cowser. I don't know about Jordan Westberg is someone maybe you could include here. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of different ways the Orioles could get this done if you were to package these two. Again, I don't expect them to be packaged because, like I said, you can maximize their values by separating them, but it would be a really fun trade. If we were to see this would kill two birds with one stone with the Orioles. That would be amazing if they could somehow get this done. So, but again, might be better to separate the two. We'll have to wait and see. But the big thing, again, the Brewers, pretty much anyone that is major league ready could be up for grabs, right? And if we're looking again at some of these values for the Brewers, Freddie Peralta, I would expect them to hang on to Peralta because he is under control, right? Corbin Burnes, most likely going to be gone, but at least you got Peralta for the next couple of seasons, and he's got a very high value, so I expect him to stay. William Contreras they just got. I expect him to stay. Now, Jackson Chourio, I mean, there's no reason to get rid of him, so obviously I'm talking about major league ready players. So, like Frelick, I expect him to stay. Could maybe someone like an Aaron Ashby maybe move, a Joel Payamps, something like that. Adames, I think could. Garrett Mitchell, I don't expect to be traded anywhere. That guy has a very high ceiling. I expect him to stay. Maybe someone like Tyrone Taylor you could move. Maybe Trevor McGill. So there's definitely some guys, but definitely the cream of the crop in terms of the trade market for the Milwaukee Brewers is Corbin Burnes. We all know that. So, but maybe Devin Williams too. That could be pretty interesting. So look out for the Milwaukee Brewers. Sounds like they're open for business. The fact that Rosenthal is saying that anyone is open to moving, or they're open to moving virtually any player on its roster, that tells me we could be seeing a couple of moves to the Brewers coming up soon. Now, let's stay on the trade talk, right? Let's stay on here. And we actually have a pretty surprising name popping up on the trade market, and that's Nick Castellanos. I mean, Nick Castellanos, he had a better season this year, getting all the way to the NLCS with the Phillies. I'm still a little shocked that the Phillies did not make it to the World Series. I still think that's crazy. But Nick Castellanos, taking a look, the Phillies could be open to trading him, right? They just signed him a couple of years ago, the 5-year, $100 million deal. But according to a source, the Phillies are open to the idea of trading Castellanos, whose streaky ways and disappointing performance in the NLCS could result in an offseason change. So, we already saw Dave Dombrowski coming out saying Bryce Harper, he's going to be the full-time first baseman. So it sounds like Dombrowski could have a plan here. If we're looking at the Phillies overall, let's pull up their roster. When I'm looking at the Phillies, one thing I have talked about in the last couple of streams is that the Phillies feel like they kind of have guys just locked in. And I feel like in today's game, you need to have flexibility on the roster, in the lineup, right? You can move guys in and out. So the fact that now Harper is locked in at first base, Schwarber will now be locked in as your DH, right? Castellanos, he pretty much has nowhere else to go, right? He's your right fielder, basically, at this point. I mean, he can go play some left, right? The problem with Nick Castellanos is his defense is just abysmal, right? So when you think of Nick Castellanos, right, sure, he made the couple of plays like in the playoffs in 2022, right? His glove definitely showed up there, but over a full season, his defense has been horrible, right? If you look at the last 3 seasons with Cincinnati in 2021, the Phillies in 22 and 23, in the double-digit negatives when it comes to his defense. And, it's hurting the team at the end of the day, right? When it comes to his offense, it was a little better this past year. Hit 272, had 29 homers, the 109 WRC plus. So he definitely got his numbers back up from 2022, which was a horrible year for him. That was like a huge bust of a year, right? He only had a 94 WRC plus, only had 13 homers after 34 homers in 21. So he got the home runs up. He got the WRC plus up. He had the 389 slugging in 2022. That's awful. But he got that all the way up near 500. But with Nick Castellanos, when you're looking at the value that he gives you, right? Because when you're looking at the value of a player, you're not just looking at the offense, but you're looking at the defense as well. He was last year negative $6.1 million. So he actually hurt the team last year in terms of value. This year, it was better, but still, he was only worth $7.7 million this year. And when you look at the salary, he's making $20 per year. So Castellanos at this point, I think he needs to be really a DH. I just don't think, maybe left field could be better for him. I feel like right field is not really a great option for him. I don't know the exact numbers in left field if I were to take a look. He's actually barely played left field, which I actually kind of find surprising with how bad he's been out in right field. I wonder what the reason is for that. Is there a reason for that? Why he doesn't really ever play left? Has that been a logistical thing with where he's been? I don't know, but he's never really played left. I know left, right? Left field tends to be, compared to right field, it tends to be where the lesser defenders tend to go, right? Right field, you tend to have the better defensive players go out there because usually right tends to have more ground depending on the ballpark, of course. But at this point, when you're looking at Castellanos as a whole, he has not been a great contract. And I can understand why the Phillies would be interested in moving him, right? Because he has not fully lived up to his value. And again, it's kind of a logjam out there because you want some better defense, right? But he can't go anywhere because Schwarber's or DH. So the Phillies have, in terms of flexibility on their roster, they've kind of backed themselves into a corner here. So could you just trade Castellanos? Well, if we're looking at Castellanos, we just looked at Christian Yelich. The big problem with Castellanos is his contract is majorly underwater, right? Negative $38.6 million as of right now. Maybe that could get down to negative 30.9, right around that range. So the Phillies are, at this point, they're going to have to pay some of that contract, right? If they want to get rid of him or attach a prospect with him. So I would be on the lookout for this. I would definitely keep your eyes on a possible move here because, what would their next move be, right? I would imagine, could they, go out and maybe go get someone that can play right field? It's possible. So, you got Rojas still out in center. You got Marsh out in left, right? Harper's staying at first base, so he's not going back out to right. So if they ended up trading Castellanos, they would be in the market for an outfielder, right? I don't know. You do have Pache on the roster, but I feel like Pache at this point I think he's in a good spot right now for what he's been, right? He did step up with the bat this year. He did get hurt a little bit, but with Pache, he's going to bring you great defense. And he did show this past year, the right-handed bat. Seems like they got something going with him. So I don't think he would be an option to be a starter. So I would imagine if the Phillies did trade Castellanos to maybe go out onto the market, maybe they could go after like a Teoscar Hernandez. Remember, they were interested in Teoscar Hernandez at the deadline this past year. It didn't get done. Nothing happened. He ended up staying, but that could be an option, right? Teoscar Hernandez would be similar to Castellanos with the bat, but the defense would be better. Right? Teoscar Hernandez doesn't have amazing defense out there, but a little better. It's doable, right? It would definitely be better than Castellanos by far. So we'll have to see. But keep your eyes on this. Keep your eyes on that one. Speaking of trades, let's talk about my Red Sox. Let's talk about the Yankees. Could we see an unprecedented trade, right? I mean, could you imagine if the Red Sox and the Yankees made a trade with these two players? And according to the reports actually surfacing last night, a little after our show ended last night, we had some reports coming out. And we did talk about Alex Verdugo last night, but we had something else come out about Verdugo. But let's talk about Gleyber Torres first. Rob Bradford this morning said, per sources, the Red Sox showed interest in acquiring Gleyber Torres last season. Seems like the fit is still there. The Red Sox could use a second baseman. Now, with Alex Verdugo, again, I guess it was actually during the show last night. I actually can't remember what time did I start the show last night? I actually don't remember. So I guess this actually came out during our show last night, and I just didn't catch it. But Chris Henrique says here, Red Sox, we did talk about the Verdugo, situation, the story about how they were receiving phone calls, right? Chris Henrique saying Red Sox may not be actively shopping Verdugo. Chris, listen to me, my friend. They are actively shopping Alex Verdugo, right? They're just keeping the cards close to the vest. I mean, come on now. There is indeed interest from other clubs, as reported by Peter Abraham and others. One team to continue to keep an eye on for Verdugo is the Yankees, per source. And I see you. I see you, Zach, in the chat. I agree. I don't think it's going to happen. But it is absolutely hilarious when you put these two guys side by side on baseball trade values. They almost line up perfectly. It's like it would be such a clean swap, right? Because Gleyber just fills in for second base with the Red Sox, and Verdugo fills in the outfield position, right? Listen, I don't think this happens, but it is pretty funny how close they are in value, how they both help each other in terms of team needs, right? They're both very close to free agency. So I could see it. Like, I don't think it happens, but if it did, I wouldn't be surprised, right? The one thing with the Yankees is they need guys that can make some more contact. The Yankees were one of the worst teams last year when it came to contact percentage, right? Alex Verdugo, if my potato brain serves me correctly, I think he was 10th overall in contact percentage last year among qualified players. So Verdugo would definitely give them a bump in that department where they can maybe start making some different things happen, getting the bat on the ball a bit more. But with Verdugo, the problem is he was very streaky last year. Like when he was on, but when he was bad, right? So Verdugo very up and down. It seemed like he had a lot of personal stuff going on last year. It seemed like him and Alex Cora were not seeing eye to eye. He was late, I guess, to one of the games one day or something. There was like some breakdown of communication. Something happened. Cora chewed into him. And then, I can't remember the other thing. I feel like there was something else. I can't remember. But Verdugo, seemed like there was some stuff going on with him last year. So I do expect Verdugo to get traded, but not just because of that, but because the Red Sox have a lot of younger outfielders coming up. And with Verdugo coming up on free agency, it just kind of makes sense to take advantage of his value while it's still high. Right? Maybe get back like a depth starter, maybe someone for the bullpen, or maybe Gleyber Torres, which I think would be hilarious. Now, I've held a firm stance on Gleyber Torres and the Yankees. I have such a hard time seeing Brian Cashman trading Gleyber Torres because there's been many chances he could have traded Gleyber Torres. All right? He could. I guess the report was from this past trade deadline, I guess there was a trade, right, between, this isn't Gleyber Torres, but I guess there was a trade possibly with the Red Sox and the Yankees where the Red Sox could have gotten Clark Schmidt, and I guess Chaim Bloom didn't want to do it. And I don't know. I don't know about that. So anyway, but back to Torres, until I actually see Cashman trade him, I'm just not going to believe he's going to trade him because I just think he just loves Gleyber Torres, right? At the end of the day, Gleyber Torres, well, he didn't have the most amazing season last year. It was a pretty solid season overall, right? He hit 273, 347 on base, 453 slugging, the 123 WRC plus, 25 homers. A very solid season for Gleyber Torres. So when you think of the rest of the Yankee lineup, he was actually one of the bright spots in the lineup last year. So I feel like, yes, like you would in this deal, which I don't think happens. And the funny thing is like kind of people were jumping all over that they would be swapped. I don't know. Reports weren't exactly saying that, but I guess when you link that the Red Sox were interested in Gleyber Torres, the Yankees wanted Verdugo, and when you see the values lined up, I guess it could maybe happen, but they both fill needs for the other team, right? The Red Sox need a second baseman, and the Yankees could use a different type of a bat, and a lefty bat with Verdugo could fit really well at Yankee Stadium. But the funny thing is with Gleyber Torres and Alex Verdugo, when you look at Verdugo's stats at Yankee Stadium, I actually have the numbers pulled up here. And when you look at Gleyber Torres' numbers at Fenway Park, it's actually a little surprising. They're actually not amazing. right? So I'd wonder what the stats would be like over a full season. All right. So if we take a look, all right, so Alex Verdugo, his career at Yankee Stadium, all right, 31 games, hitting .252 with a .299 on base, .437 slugging, 5 home runs. Gleyber Torres, 42 games, hitting .265, a .306 on base, a .410 slugging, 4 homers. The problem with Gleyber Torres is a lot of people think, oh, right-handed bat, that could be pretty good at Fenway Park. Well, the thing with Gleyber Torres is he sprays his home runs really all over the place, right? He's not really like a pull hitter. He can hit some to oppo too, right? So his bat might not fit as well as you would think at Fenway Park. So take that into consideration. Now, if we typed in Alex Verdugo, let's go take a look at him at Yankee Stadium. I'm actually curious about this. I feel like all of Verdugo's home runs were pulled last year. I can't remember an oppo home run for him. Maybe there was one out in the center. Yeah, pretty much all of his home runs were pulled, right? So, and the funny thing is with Verdugo, he didn't really hit like any into this zone here, like deep into deeper into right field. So it was either like he kind of hit one as like a base hit or a home run, right? But if I go to the illustrator here and I go put Yankee Stadium. Now, again, getting back to the numbers, right? Now, if you play half a season at Yankee Stadium, right, 31 games, so that's, 5 home runs times 2.5, right? You're looking at maybe 12, 13 home runs at Yankee Stadium, according to his career numbers, if you had a full season or a full half season at Yankee Stadium. So taking a look at Verdugo here, let's see what it would look like if he were at Yankee Stadium. Where is it? Sprague chart. Here we go. So let's put Yankee Stadium. So it looks like, according to the Sprague chart, looks like he could have had a couple more homers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Maybe like 5 more home runs for Verdugo. So I feel like if he had a full season at Yankee Stadium, I think you could see like a 20 to 25 home run kind of a guy. So I don't know. When you compare, the thing with Verdugo though is it's not the power that you're really looking to get an increase in, because you're already getting that with Gleyber. With Verdugo, he gives you more contact, right? He kind of makes things happen a little bit more. So that's where he would give a different look for the Yankees, while Gleyber is simply just filling in at first base. Second base. Again, I don't expect this deal to happen. People are speculating about it. I don't see it happening personally. I don't know. I just feel like maybe tires were kicked a little bit on each of the players, and I feel like, Rob Bradford, he didn't necessarily say with this tweet that the Red Sox were interested. He said the Red Sox showed interest last year, and he says here, seems like a fit is still there. We don't know if the Red Sox are still interested. Just because they showed interest last season doesn't necessarily mean they're still interested. So, as I always say, we'll have to see. But I do expect if these two guys are to get traded, I would expect they go elsewhere. Who knows? We've seen crazier things. Let's move on here. Let's get away from the trades and let's get to free agency. And, of course, we got Shohei Ohtani in the news. We always have Shohei Ohtani in the news, but we actually have a couple of details here that are pretty interesting when it comes to Shohei Ohtani. Before I do get to that, everyone, if you can, hit that like button for me. The like goal for tonight is 100. Here we go. Alrighty. So we had a couple of stories, right, with Ohtani, and I actually think, I can't wait about one little detail I'm going to present to all of you, because I have actually said this little detail that's being reported. I have said it before. I'll get to that in just a second. But the takeaways from Ohtani, also the general managers meetings, I guess there was like an outbreak of a stomach virus. Was like the norovirus, or is that what it's called? I guess everyone came down with the stomach flu, and pretty much everyone was they were going down like flies, and they had to end the meetings early. My goodness. I'm not kidding. Last year, I believe, or earlier this year in May, I came down with a really bad stomach virus. It was horrible. I'm never really sick. The last time I was like really sick, I had like a really bad throat infection like 10 years ago. It was awful. Like I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything. It was like my throat was killing me, right? That was like the last time I remember I was very sick, right? I was shivers and it was awful. And then, or May this past year, I was out for the count for like 3 nights. It was so bad. Like I had like a temperature of like 103. I was in bad shape, man. So I hope those guys didn't get that because that was one of the worst times I was ever sick. So anyway, moving on here. Moving on. Taking a look. The presumptive American League most valuable player is undoubtedly the top free agent available, and while the majority of executives around the league believe he will ultimately sign with the Dodgers, other clubs, including the Giants, Mets, Red Sox, and Cubs, are expected to take their shot at signing Ohtani, right? So it's interesting that, you're not seeing the Yankees here, right? You're not seeing the Mariners, right? You're only seeing these 5 teams getting mentioned, right? The Cubs, Red Sox, Mets, Giants, and Dodgers, right? I've told you, I think the Giants are a dark horse for Ohtani because they've been wanting to just throw their money at someone in the last couple of off seasons. They haven't been able to do it. I do expect them to be the dark horse. I could see the Cubs have been named as the sleeper pick, right? And if you look at what the Cubs have been doing, right? Now you got Craig Counsell as your new manager, right? They didn't, the whole thing with Marcus Stroman is now a free agent, right? So now that's even more money off the books if they decide not to bring him back. I mean, I could see the Cubs. I guess, does he, at the end of the day, will he want to go to the Cubs, right? Definitely the Cubs want him, but will he want to go there? I personally just don't see the Mets doing it. Maybe I'm wrong. I just do expect the Mets to kind of bring it back a little bit this offseason. I'm not saying they're not going to make moves, but I just feel like the Mets, first year of David Stearns, I feel like he probably wants to evaluate things. They probably don't want to go crazy. I just kind of think they're going to ease off the pedal a little bit. I could see them definitely putting their foot on the pedal for next offseason, right? But I feel like this is going to be like an evaluation kind of a year with David Stearns. I could be wrong. That's just me. For me, out of these teams, and the Red Sox, right? Sorry to be draft Nick Robbie right now, but the Red Sox, I don't know how significant that New Balance thing is, right? That's the sponsor for Ohtani, New Balance. The headquarters are in Boston. I personally just don't know if that's significant. I would like to ask a pro guy, right? Someone in the pros, is that significant? Is that really a thing? Like, is it helpful if you are sponsored, have a major sponsorship, to be in the same city as that sponsor? I don't know. Like, I really don't know if there are actual benefits to it. Sure, they would be in close proximity. Maybe they could work something out with the Red Sox in terms of marketing and stuff like that. John Henry, he's always looking to make moves like that on the side, right? So maybe the Red Sox could be a dark horse. I personally don't think it happens. I think they really have their nose in it. I just don't see it. For me personally, I do think it comes down to the Dodgers, the Giants. The Cubs have been rumored as that sleeper team. Maybe the Mariners. I think that's possible, and I would not count out the Angels until he has officially signed somewhere else, because there is always that chance a player can just go back home, right? But the other detail here to report is that those talks will likely begin to heat up after Thanksgiving. According to my invisible watch, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So could be Ohtani mania coming up soon, with many industry insiders predicting that Ohtani could make his decision by next month's winter meetings in Nashville. And if we were to look up the exact date of that. The winter meetings. Those are I think it was the first week of December. Yep, December 3rd through the 6th. So, that week after Thanksgiving, and then that first week of December, that could be a really hot time, everyone. Really hot time. So, get your popcorn ready. We got a few weeks to gear up for it. So, but yeah, I mean, I could honestly see maybe Ohtani, he just wants to get this done. Right? Maybe he just doesn't want to take too long, right? Because I feel like the market is going to be held up by him, right? And I just feel like teams, they already know what this is, right? They probably know by now. I would imagine these teams have been doing their research. They've been plugging in the numbers, crunching the numbers, right? They've come up with what they think is financially correct for them to offer Ohtani. I feel like there's not going to be a whole lot of playing around when it comes to Ohtani. I think you know what you have here. You got the best player in the world. There's no playing around with this, right? You come out with a strong offer from the beginning, and I think these teams are going to do that. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of messing around, right? And I don't think Ohtani wants to mess around. To me, I wouldn't be getting cute when it comes to negotiations. So I'd say over the next few weeks, there's going to be phone calls made. There's going to be visits made. There's going to be inquiries. There's going to be a whole lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of talking over the next few weeks. And I could see after he's evaluated things after a few weeks, him and his agent, I could see them, making a decision. I feel like Ohtani at this point, my guess is he is leaning Dodgers right now because we've had that report now for a while, right? There was a report this past season that the Dodgers and Ohtani were looking like they were a match made in heaven, right? It could already be a done deal. Who knows? But maybe Ohtani is giving these other teams a chance to see if maybe they could change his mind. I'm just speculating there. I just feel like Ohtani, at this point, he's been in this mode for a while now. Yeah, sure, he had a really good season with the Angels. But I feel like he probably just has an idea already, right? He's been in the league now for a few years. He knows what's what. He's heard probably other players tell him about these teams, that team, this team. Right? He probably has a really good idea compared to what it was before he came to the major leagues, right? That took a while, right? Meeting all these teams, but he's been here now. He's been the face of the game for the last few years. I just feel like he already kind of knows. But he wants to give these other teams a chance. My personal thinking is that the Dodgers are the leading candidate. We'll see if any of these other teams can maybe change his mind, right? However, I want to point this out because I have said this on prior streams with Ohtani. Now, I don't know how significant this rumor is, but it is being thrown around out there. All right. This is on yardbarker.com, right? I could not get to the actual article on ESPN because they have the paywall there. But MLB insider Kylie McDaniel of ESPN reported that there's some growing buzz that Ohtani will want to sign a shorter deal so that he can pitch in 2025 and maybe 2026 before he could potentially reach free agency again. I have said this before. Now, who knows if that ends up happening? But I know a lot of you right now, you're thinking, oh, I do remember Robbie saying that, right? I've said I could see a shorter deal, right? 5-year deal, 6-year deal. I have said that, all right? I've even tweeted it. I'll have to go find the tweet, right? But it makes a lot of sense when you really think about it, right? And of course, if he signs a shorter deal, that AAV is going to be through the roof. Like he could sign like a 5-year, $300 million deal, right? It'd be $60 million per year, right? I could see something like that. The main reason is because of the durability, right? Who knows what his arm is going to be like, right? From a health point of view. His bat is still going to be great, right? But I think there is a chance that he could sign just a massive shorter deal up to 5-6 years. Maybe there's an opt-out in there, right? Or maybe he ends up signing a long-term deal and there's an opt-out after maybe like the 6th year. I could see that, right? I could see either or. A shorter deal or a longer deal with an opt-out, right? Now, will a team be willing to give the opt-out? That's where the negotiations come into play. So I think there's a chance for either or, right? Maybe he just wants to have that 5 or 6 year deal, knows he's going back out on the market, or he can just have the opt-out. I'm telling you, everyone, I think that's very possible. And I have said that, right? And he goes on to say here, this would mean signing for something like I didn't even read this part, and it's literally what I just said. This would mean signing for something like a 6-year deal, let's say 55, 60 million per year, with an opt-out or 2 that he intends on using, right? Or could he just do the shorter deal with an opt-out, right? I'm telling you, everyone, and I've said this. I'm sorry, I know I keep saying that, but you all know I said it months ago, and I even tweeted it. I'll have to find that tweet. So, because Ohtani, it's just a different kind of a player. And another thing that makes me think he could sign a shorter deal, and I said this a long time ago too, are teams hesitant to give him a long-term deal, right? Do they want to go that long with Ohtani, not knowing what the health of his arm is going to be like, right? Sure, they will pay for the bat, right? But at the end of the day, Ohtani, as good as he is, you're already starting to see him break down a little bit. All right, the bat has been fine, but as a two-way player, I mean, listen, we all talk about Babe Ruth years ago as a two-way player. Eventually, Babe Ruth just gave up pitching, right? He was a good pitcher, and he gave up pitching. So it's very possible that could happen with Ohtani as well. So, again, we'll have to keep our eyes out for this. I definitely could see him signing a 6-year deal, 5-year deal, right? Mainly just because of the durability concerns, right? And again, I'll have to go find, if anyone can go find that quote for me. I don't know what stream I said it. I have no idea, right? But I know I have said it before. Let's move on here. We got a few more stories to talk about. Let's talk about Cody Bellinger. And it looks like Cody Bellinger could already be down to 3 teams. Cody Bellinger, besides Ohtani's bat, Bellinger is the top position player on the market after a great bounce back season with the Cubs. And already it's being reported by John Heyman. We all love John Heyman. He's walking around those. Of course, John Heyman, he ends up being like the last man standing at these meetings, right? After everyone comes down with a stomach virus, and John Heyman, out of all the guys, is the last one standing. He tweeted out earlier that he went to In-N-Out, right? Like pretty much every single night, and he was fine. I guess maybe there was some catering at these things, and I don't know, man. I guess there must have been something in the food. I'm just saying, man. And you know what's funny? When I got a stomach virus back in May, I actually, that day, before I came down with whatever the heck hit me, I actually there was like a lunch that was served at my school that I work at, or my old school. And I personally blame that. I remember it was like pork, it was rice, it was a whole bunch of stuff. I personally think it was the pork, and I think that could have happened, right? GM meetings, bunch of food probably being served. I bet you there was a little something in the catering. Anyway, Bellinger, Yankees, Cubs, Giants. I personally picked the Giants to sign Cody Bellinger. Like I said, they've been looking to spend money in the last couple of off seasons. I personally have them signing Bellinger and Chapman. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think they could use an upgrade defensively at third base. Chapman gives you a little bit of pop with the bat from the right side. And then Bellinger, they're looking for a center fielder. It's perfect, right? All those years playing in the NL West, it just makes a whole lot of sense, right? I could see them wanting to, bring him aboard, play center field, can even play a little first base as well. I think the Giants would like that too, right? It just makes a lot of sense for the Giants, in my opinion. Sure, it makes a lot of sense for the Yankees as well. I just don't see it happening, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like the Yankees, Bellinger, they've been a fit before, and they could have pulled the trigger before, and they just didn't do it. I just don't see him doing it this time. All right, and he could just go back to the Cubs too, right? Good season with the Cubs. It just almost feels like they've already said their goodbyes. Like they've already kind of said, hey, thanks for the chance. Thanks for the opportunity, right? I just feel like it just feels like it's done. But hey, we saw Judge go back to the Yankees, right? Different situation. But personally, I have him going to the Giants. So we will see. Heyman said, I think ultimately he ends up going to one of those three teams, most likely the Cubs or the Yankees, which has to mean that he's going to the Giants. I'm just saying. Arson Judge, maybe he can go back to the Giants. We'll have to see. So let's get to our next story. Couple more here before we end up getting out of here. We got the Orioles in the news. And Conman752, I don't know if you're still here or not, my friend. Thank you for the super chat earlier. And did we actually have a super chat? Did I miss any? I feel like I might have missed a super chat. We had one from Justin Savage, $4.99 super chat. I could see the Rangers trading with the Brewers. I think Corbin Burnes would be really good for the Rangers, to be completely honest with you, right? And I think the Rangers, hey, if the Brewers want some bats, maybe the Rangers got a couple there. So I could definitely see that happening. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. Moving on here, the Orioles. They're seeking additions for the top half of the rotation and back of the bullpen. I think this is a pretty significant rumor because it's very specific, right? I feel like the more specific the rumor that you hear, the more likely it happens, right? It's not just like the Orioles are looking to add starting pitching. They're looking to add top half of the rotation pitching, right? Now, could that mean they end up signing one of the big names? Nola, Snell, Gray, Montgomery, Eduardo Rodriguez. Could they sign one of the big names, right? Sure. And when you're looking at the payroll for the Baltimore Orioles, I mean, it's basically an empty plate, right? Look at all the free agents they have coming off the books. Kyle Gibson, Frazier, Fujinami a little bit, and then Aaron Hicks they were barely paying. But look at the estimated payroll for next year. The only two guys they have under actual contracts, not arbitration, James McCann and Felix Bautista. And Felix Bautista's only making $1 million. James McCann is as of right now, arbitration numbers haven't, been agreed to yet. But right now, James McCann is the highest earning player on the Orioles right now. Isn't that crazy? Right, but of course, Santander, he's probably going to get a bump up, so he's going to end up being the highest paid player, at least as of right now, on the team. But clearly, the Orioles have so much room to add, right? In my predictions, I didn't have them getting any top-tier guys because I just haven't seen that spending, right? I thought they were going to do it last year. Carlos Correa, I thought he would have been great, play some short, Gunnar Henderson, maybe move over to like third or something like that, right? So, I could have seen that, but they didn't do it. And I just haven't seen, we haven't seen any reports that they're willing to spend the big bucks, right? You got the whole thing with ownership going on and whatever. So I just haven't been convinced that they're going to spend the money. Who knows what top half of the rotation pictures look like? I mean, could that end up just being, someone that's not top, like Snell or Nola? Maybe that could be more like the Gray or Erod level, where I could see those guys getting under $100 million, maybe 5-year, $90 million. I could see something like that. I could see the Orioles doing that instead of giving $200 million, to Snell or Yamamoto, right? Or Nola, right? I could see Gray or Erod, right? Maybe Montgomery. Montgomery, he has been in the AL East. I feel like Montgomery would be a really good fit for the Orioles, to be completely honest with you. So I think it is very interesting that we're seeing a very specific rumor. And this comes directly from Mike Elias himself, right? Tells Mark Feinstein that adding a starting pitcher who projects for the front half of the rotation would be wonderful. I've been saying that this is a rumor. Sorry, this came right from the horse's mouth. And that he also hopes to add a late inning reliever. So, again, I love the specificity, right? And, getting back to the starting pitchers, right? I'm only talking free agents here. The Orioles, They got a ton of payroll flexibility. And they got prospects as well. So we talked about Corbin Burnes earlier. I kind of felt like I talked that to death earlier. You could absolutely get a deal for Corbin Burnes done, right? If I were to put a trade together here, I was kind of looking at it a little earlier, right? So let's put a trade together with the Orioles. Let's talk the Orioles and the Brewers. And if I were to throw Corbin Burnes on the Orioles, you're looking around a $30 million up to maybe $40 million value for Corbin Burnes, somewhere in that range. I would think with the Brewers, I think they would like to have some cost-controlled bats that are major league ready. Right off the bat, Jordan Westburg, that makes a lot of sense to me. He could play third, right? They could definitely use an upgrade at third, and Westburg could be like a long-term kind of a guy for you. And right there, that's already a solid player that you could throw in there. Maybe, they don't have a lot of young pitching that you could deal. Maybe like DL Hall, right? Maybe do like two pretty solid prospects for Corbin Burnes, right? DL Hall feels like he hasn't really found his way, but I could see maybe the Brewers maybe getting a little more out of DL Hall, right? I think that could be pretty significant. Hurricane Truth, right? You said Mayo. I feel like Mayo by himself has a lot of value right now. His bat is so good. I feel like Colton Cowser is probably not going to be on the table. He could be. I mean, maybe. But they really like Colton Cowser. I don't think they should trade him. Maybe you could involve Dean Kramer, right? They get a pitcher back in return that's under control. Maybe you do like Dean Kramer and Joey Ortiz, something like that. Maybe like Kramer, Ortiz. Maybe throw in, like a DL Hall or Fabian, right? I could see something like that. But to me, I feel like Jordan Westburg would be a really nice piece to send back to the Brewers. I think that would be a nice cost-controlled bat for them. So we'll have to see. But the Orioles, definitely threats out there on the market, both in free agency and for trades. And don't forget, we talked about the back end of the bullpen as well, right? Do they go out and sign Josh Hader? I don't know. Based off of feel, I feel like that doesn't happen. But could they get a Aroldis Chapman? Yeah, I could see Chapman. Maybe Hicks, right? I could see Jordan Hicks. I could maybe see like a lower tier guy like that. I don't know about Hader necessarily. But, hey. Or could we go with Con Man's suggestion? Go with Corbin Burnes. Go with Devin Williams. That would be nasty. That would be such a good trade for the Orioles if they did that. Burnes and Williams. Oh, that would be so great. Man, Con Man, what a great idea. Will they do it, though? I don't know. All right, everyone, we got one more story to talk about. We're going to wrap things up here shortly. And everyone, it's almost part 2 of the Trevor Bauer sweepstakes. Trevor Bauer's representatives meeting with teams in search of a Major League Baseball opportunity. He's been in Japan for the last year. We had a lot of stuff happen with Trevor Bauer over the last couple of years, right? Got suspended for, it felt like, what was like 1 million games or something like that. Charges against him were dropped. A lot of stuff came out afterwards. He did a YouTube video basically saying that Lindsey Hill, who was the accuser, he basically revealed like all of these text messages, really painting her in a bad light that did not make her look good at all. No matter what you think about it, to me, obviously, with Trevor Bauer, he's going to be a lightning rod anywhere he goes, right? With Trevor Bauer, in my opinion, though, I do think he gets another opportunity. I keep seeing people out there saying, he's not going to come back to the league. Listen, this guy can still pitch, right? I think at first it could be a distraction, but I think it will end up just going away. If he just, a team, I think, will give him a chance, right? But I think they're going to be very, very clear. If there's any problems at all, you're gone. Right. I think that he will have a very short leash. If there's anything that comes up in the news, if there's anything at all, I would think that they're going to have a short leash with the guy. Right. With Trevor Bauer, I do think he deserves an opportunity, especially after what came out after, everything was dropped with the charges and whatnot. So I feel like, and even Mookie Betts came to his defense, saying, hey, he thinks Trevor Bauer is a great guy. I personally just think he deserves another chance. That's just me. You can disagree with me if you want, whatever. But I do think with Bauer, he can still pitch, right? Is he going to be a 1 or a 2 in your rotation? Probably not, right? But I feel like he could be a really good 3 in your rotation. Honestly, if you're looking at it from just a baseball economics point of view, if you're looking at teams that could use some starting pitching, right? Sure, of course, maybe the Rangers could use another guy at the top of that rotation. Bauer has been very durable in his career, and I feel like that could be someone that they turn to. Possibly, right? Like a low cost. I mean, who knows what Bauer ends up getting? I could see Bauer maybe getting like a 1 year, like $10 or $15 million deal, like something like that. Maybe one with like an option or something. But I could see the Rangers maybe going on that. Maybe just because you got Evaldi and Scherzer at the top, and those guys, their injury history is not great. So Bauer has been durable. So I could see a fit with the Texas Rangers. The Cardinals are looking for pitching. Do they go after him? Not quite sure. But you know what I could see? Kind of like what the Royals did last year with the Aroldis Chapman, right? Remember when everyone was shocked when they signed Chapman? It's like, the Royals? Aroldis Chapman? You know what I could see? I could see like a team like the Nationals who are looking for pitching. I could see the Nationals maybe signing him to like a 1 year deal. And then based off of how they're doing, if they're just completely out of it, they can just trade him. Right? And you can get and if he's doing really well at the trade deadline and a team is looking to win and they're needing starting pitching at the deadline, do what the Royals did. Just trade him to a team in contention, get some prospects back. That's what the Royals did. They got Cole Reagans, and Cole Reagans ended up being one of the better pitchers in the second half. Could you see the Nationals do that? Could you see the Royals do that? Could you maybe see the Reds bring him back? I know the Reds will most likely be in contention next year. Could you see the White Sox maybe do something like that, right? Could the Red Sox maybe do something with Bauer? I don't know. Could the Dodgers bring him back? I don't see the Dodgers bringing him back, to be completely honest. But I could see one of these teams that maybe aren't quite there yet, like the Nationals, take advantage, right? Sign him to a 1 year deal. Yeah, maybe have to go through that media for a little bit, first month of the season or so. Definitely when he signs, they're going to have to address that. I see people out there saying, they don't see teams wanting to deal with the headache, right? No matter what you think of Bauer, at the end of the day, he is going to be at least at first, a distraction, right? No matter what, right? He's going to have that media attention. It's going to be in the news, right? And teams, they are knowing very well that if they do sign him, they are going to have to go through that, at least in the beginning. I do think if your team signs him, it'll eventually go away, right? I just feel like people just accept it and just move on, So that's just me. I do know people out there there are defenders of him. I know Eric Sims, right, is a big defender of him. Obviously Mookie Betts just came out. There have been players that definitely seem to be irritated with Bauer as well. But at the end of the day, if he can help a team, right, if he can give them effective innings, I think Bauer has a place in Major League Baseball next year. So, but I do think a team will be very stern about saying like, hey, seriously, we don't even put your name out there, man. Like, you can do your social media, you can do your stuff, but seriously, you need to lay low, right? Minus the social media stuff. I'm just saying. So, if I were to pick a team, if there is a team in contention that signs him, I could see the Rangers, personally. Maybe the Diamondbacks. I did predict the Diamondbacks in my predictions. Maybe he comes back home, right? He does live in Arizona in the offseason, right? Good buddies with Eric Sims. Momentum, they're all buddy. They could definitely do all their content out there. So maybe the Diamondbacks, they could use another guy in the rotation. I know, people in Arizona were getting really tired of his act, years back. Maybe fresh start, come back home, start back over, maybe the Diamondbacks. I could see either the Rangers or the Diamondbacks, or maybe a team like the Nationals, something like that. All right. We'll have to see. But with Trevor Bauer, and listen, and people, I have actually talked to someone. I can't say the name, so people they're gonna call me a liar, but I have actually talked to someone and who knows Trevor Bauer personally, and he told me that Bauer did get calls last year, right? He did get phone calls, right? Major league teams were kind of asking about him, right? And in the end, he just felt like, personally, he just wanted to go to Japan for like a year. And he wasn't really going to make a whole bunch. He wasn't really going to make anything because teams were basically just going to offer him like a league minimum, right? So he just felt, he was going to make more money in Japan. Why not just do that? So I do know that personally. I'm not going to say the name, right? But teams did ask about him last year. So I could see it happening. Everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. I know Jim over at Ballcap Sports, he is looking to start a stream here. I don't know if he has already started it or not, but I know he has one going on tonight, so make sure you check his out. He always has people coming over to my streams and flooding my streams. So do the same for him if he is live right now. Yeah. I'm out of here, everyone. I'm out of here. I got some stuff to work on. I got to get some sleep here soon. I'm already getting pretty tired. But everyone, on the way out, if you can, hit that like button for me. Helps out with the algorithm. Helps out for the people that missed the show. Right? Get to see the replay later on. Subscribe if you are new. Share the show. Hit the bell. That way you know I go live every single time. Or if I upload a video. And everyone, I do have content coming out this weekend. I have trade candidates for this offseason, as well as trade predictions. Keep an eye out for that, everyone. Keep an eye out. And don't forget about our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, the #1 stop for all of your daily fantasy needs. We got Thursday Night Football going on right now. And we can actually go check on what is the score right now with that. I know this is a baseball channel, but we do have a game on tonight. Who is playing tonight? We got the Bears. We got the Panthers. Right? Carolina's up 10-9 right now. Right now, again, I know this is a baseball channel, but we don't got baseball stats to pick right now. So Bryce Young, it looks like this is a very low-scoring game right now, but you can do in-game pick'ems. So right now, Bryce Young has no touchdowns. So you could go on there right now and say, hey, you know what? It's the third quarter right now. I think he's going to go get a touchdown, right? He's got 69 passing yards. My goodness, what a terrible game for Bryce Young. Could he end up going ham in the fourth quarter, maybe getting a ton of passing yards, right? Yeah, I don't know. Bryce Young, with these numbers, I don't know if that's going to do anything for you. But you can make in-game pick'ems, which I do think is pretty cool. And you can make pick'ems for the Bears as well. It seems like this is a horrible game to really make some of these picks. But who knows? Maybe the fourth quarter ends up being exciting. And then, of course, you got this Sunday coming up. We got a lot of games this Sunday. I think we have another game over in Europe, over in England, I think. Is that where the game is with the Patriots and the Colts this coming weekend? It's at 9:30 in the morning. It's always so weird seeing football on at 9:30 in the morning. I'm eating my breakfast, and all of a sudden the Patriots are on TV. I mean, hey. But there's a whole bunch of different picks that you can make for this Sunday. And then you got basketball as well. Obviously, basketball season is here, and there's a whole bunch of picks that you can make. Trae Young right now. And that's the one thing with basketball is there's a whole bunch of stats that you can pick from for each player, right? Trae Young right now, we got the Hawks. I was about to say the Braves. We got the Hawks. We got the Magic, right? I'm actually in Central Florida. They're at the Amway right now, not too far from me. Maybe one of these days I'll go to the Amway, maybe see my Celtics. But Trae Young, hey, There's a whole bunch of different things you can pick from here. And, there's games every night with basketball. So go check it out, everyone. The link is in the description down below. The code is HIDE. You get a double on your first deposit when you use the code. Double on your first deposit up to $100. Go check it out. They are a huge sponsor of the show. So thankful for everything Underdog has done to support the show. If you can show your support back with Underdog, because really they support this show very nicely, and they are awesome over there. So if you can support the show by at least going to check it out, at least try it out, maybe make a couple of picks, I will love you forever. And but always make sure you play responsibly. Everyone, I'm out of here. I'm going to wrap this up. Go over to Ballcap Sports. Go check out Jim. I think he has a show going on right now. He's talking probably all the rumors right now. So everyone, have yourself a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.